I've added a lot of custom swords to Minecraft, and in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to add your own custom swords to the game in today's Datapack tutorial. The first step in this process is probably to add the custom texture to the item that you're actually wanting to make. So in this case, my sword is red, and I believe this is my notch sword texture. I've actually already made a tutorial on adding custom textured items to the game, and so you should check out that tutorial if you have not already done so to learn how to actually make a custom textured sword. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to actually make the sword have functionality to it. The first step that I take when making a data pack is to determine what exactly your goal is. So in this case, I'm wanting to make a custom sword, but what exactly does that mean? Defining exactly what we're looking for in our data pack is really important because it allows us to break down that goal into multiple steps that we can tackle one at a time. So in this case, I want to be able to take a custom sword. So this is a stone sword with custom model data 3. That is my notch apple sword. And I want to be able to detect when I hit a mob with the sword. And I want a custom thing to happen at that mob. And you'll notice that as we defined that, we got quite a few ands into that sentence. And so specifically what I'm needing is I need a way to detect that I hit a mob, a way to determine that it's the custom sword rather than just a regular stone sword, and then I need to know which mob I actually hit and where it is. So the cool thing is now that we have a list of what we need to do, we can pretty easily incrementally tackle it. So let me jump into the code and explain what we're going to do. Opening my data pack with Visual Studio Code, you can see that I have defined the 3 steps that we're going to try to take, which are determine when we hit a mob, determine if a custom sword was held, and then determine who and where the mob we hit is. I'll be developing this data pack using MCB, so if you want to follow along, I do have a tutorial on how to set up that tool. Basically, it's a quick tool that compiles a single file down into multiple functions to generate your data pack for you. It's really helpful. I have a tutorial on how to set it up and how to use it. Go watch that linked in the iCard in the top right. Now, the best way to actually determine if the player has hit a mob is to use an advancement. To set up an advancement, we will want to go to our data pack, go to the data folder, go to whatever you are naming your data pack. In this case, I'm going with sword tutorial, and we'll have a functions folder probably already for wherever you put your functions, but we'll want to create a new folder and call this advancements, like so. Inside your advancements folder, you can create a text document, except we're going to not have the extension b.text. Instead, we're going to have a b.json. And we can name this whatever we want. I'm going to go with deal damage. Hit enter, you will get a warning saying that if you change the file extension, it could break. It will not break though. So then inside of your deal damage.json file, we're going to actually create an advancement. There are generators for this. I'm going to link the advancement generator that I personally use. It's made by Mizode, and he did a fantastic job on making a pretty accessible and easy to use generator. Using the generator got me this. And so an advancement is basically a condition, and then when that condition is met, you can set up a reward. That's all that an advancement really is. So we're setting up what the requirement is, and the requirement is simply player hurt entity, meaning the player is hurting an entity, right? And if that condition is met, then we're rewarded by running this function. So we need to have a function in our sword tutorial pack named deal damage. So I'll create that in just a second. By the way, this is probably a good time to mention that I will be putting the download for this tutorial data pack in the video's description. It should be the top link. So all of these advancements and other stuff that we're going to be using later in the tutorial, you can just grab from there and you won't need to type all of this out. It should be a little bit easier for you guys, and then you can just configure them like whatever your pack name is, you'll put it here, right? Pack name. Whatever your pack name is, put it there, and then as long as you have a function called deal damage, this will work. But I do not have a function named deal damage. Let's create one. So function deal damage, and do it like that. Of course, that's how you do it in MCB. If I was making this data pack normally, I would want to navigate to my functions folder and then create a .mc function file named deal damage, right? And I can open this up. One thing that you'll notice is if I type something here, like say hi, it's going to also show up here, right? So that's basically what MCB is doing. Stuff that I type in here shows up in here. Okay, so technically we have sort of accomplished our goal number 1, which was to determine when we hit a mob. There is a problem, and I'm going to show you it right now. So in Minecraft, I can hit reload, and if I spawn in a cow and punch it, awesome. So I said hi, right? Well, here's the problem. If I punch another cow, it's not going to run again. That's because I actually have the advancement. So if we run something like advancement, grant myself only, and then this is called sword tutorial, right? Sword tutorial deal damage. The game says that I already have it. But if I were to remove it or revoke it from myself, when I punch another mob, I'm going to end up being able to say hi again, right? So that means that this command right here is pretty important. So in our data pack, if we were to put this command into the deal damage function, essentially we're going to just revoke the deal damage advancement. So if you think about what's happening now, I punch a mob, I get an advancement, right? I meet this condition, so I get this reward, which is to run this function. So I run this function, and then I take it away from myself so that I'm primed next time to be able to do it again. So if we go over to Minecraft, hit reload, now every time I punch a cow, I got thrown off there for a second because I still had deal damage, so I can't run the first time. But now that I don't have it, and I punch the mob, every time I punch it, it's going to say hi, right? This applies to me using my sword, using a stone sword, using my fist, whatever. Anytime I deal damage, we run the command. So first thing off of our objective list is complete. Okay, so next up, we need to determine if I'm using this specific custom sword rather than just any stone sword, right? So again, this stone sword, if you recall, is just a stone sword with custom model data 3, and that's how I get the texture applied. So you might be thinking, maybe why don't we just check for a stone sword with custom model data 6370003? That's an okay method. It works most of the time, but suppose we were to have also an iron sword with this same number. Well, we could have an issue if we forget to check for the stone sword part. So instead, I like to do a thing where you add a custom tag to the item. So this can be named literally whatever you want. I'm going to go with custom item and then 1. If we hit enter here, there's no difference between these two items, except this one has a custom tag. You can check that if we want to run data get entity at self selected item. You'll see this is a stone sword. It has taken 0 durability loss. We know what the custom model data is, and it has custom item : 1, or yeah. While this one does not have custom item. So there is a slight difference there, right? So at this point in our data pack, we actually have two choices. We can go a very inefficient but easy route, or we can go a slightly more difficult but much more efficient route. And I'll teach you guys both because they're both valuable to know. So the first option is to just run with an execute command, go execute as myself, and then check if the NBT of my selected item, which I was looking at earlier, right? Selected item. If the tag of my selected item is, we called it custom item 1, right? Then run say hi, right? So if we go back to Minecraft, we can test this out. So if we spawn in a cow, you'll remember this item here, this is the one with custom item, that tag there. So hit the cow with either of these items, nothing happens. But if you hit it with this sword, now the command runs. And that's nice and all, but an NBT check like we're doing here to actually determine what the sword is pretty much the most lag-intensive test that we could be running. Our alternative is to go with what's known as a predicate. So this goes in a folder next to our advancements and functions folder called the predicates folder. And inside of here, you can put JSON files similar to advancements. Basically, a predicate is kind of sort of an advancement, except instead of being a criteria that is met and then we get a reward, it's just a criteria that we can check. And now Datapacks do allow you to have folders inside of folders, so you can put this literally wherever you want. I would suggest in this case, because we're going to do a holding item check essentially, let's make another folder and we're just going to call it holding item. And then in here, this is where we're going to put our .json file. Now I actually already have this file made because I used a generator, because why type it all out? But you can see we have a custom sword.json, and essentially this is pretty similar to, this is the advancement that we were looking at earlier, right? Where we have a requirement and a reward, except for this, instead we have a condition and no reward or anything. So in this case, we're checking the entity properties of myself, and then we're checking if the equipment in my main hand has the tag of custom tag 1, which I need to make sure I change this to item because we called our sword custom item, not custom tag. By the way, while I'm at it, I might as well tell you about this site, MCStacker. I know I've mentioned it in some of my previous tutorials, but it's a really powerful generator to get all sorts of useful commands generated. In this case, I'm using a give command for a stone sword with custom model data of 6370003, right? And then a custom tag here of custom item 1, like we had in the video. So this generates the exact same thing that I had been doing in game, except we can also add a custom name to it. So we're going to go custom item, or let's say custom sword name. And then if you set the italics to be false, it's going to look the best. In Minecraft, we can run this, and you'll see now we have custom sword name showing up. So that's how my swords and other items work. They just have a custom texture and a custom name. So once you have that, now you're pretty much set. So let's move on with the tutorial. Though maybe it is worth noting, I added a give function to get this item, just in case you guys are messing around with this pack. That's how you could get it. Okay, sidetrack aside, sorry about that, got a little distracted, but we have this predicate, right? The custom item, if it has that in the main hand, that is how this is going to check. So how do we actually use this predicate? Well, a predicate uses an execute if or unless command. So we can do unless predicate or if predicate. Those are pretty much our only options. Except you could also, in the selector, you could do execute as a self predicate, whatever. I like to keep it clean and just do if predicate. And in this case, this is the only predicate we have. So just pack name, the folder we put it in, which was holding item, and then the name of it, so custom sword. And you'll see when we run this, I'm holding a stone sword right now, so the test failed. But if I hold the custom sword, the test will pass. And again, this is just a more efficient way of determining if the item we're holding is actually the right item. Though it's a little bit more annoying to set up, which is why I wanted to teach you guys both methods. And so that means that if we go back to our data pack and we put this predicate command, so execute if predicate, pack name, path to predicate, we can run say predicate works or whatever we want. And if we save that, hop over to Minecraft, hit reload, hit a cow, cool, predicate works. Ignore predicate true in there. I might have messed up my recordings like 5 times on that. So we finished step 1, we finished step 2. Now we just need to figure out step 3. And step 3 is a little bit annoying because there's no foolproof method to actually get it to work. We can only get like a 99% accurate method. However, one thing that we do know is that we're going to need to execute as at entity, right? Because we're not executing as players anymore, so we're going to need to be able to execute as entities. Problem is here, there's actually a lot of entities in the game that we really shouldn't be able to hit with our sword. Like, if you think about it, like type, I don't know, here's a good example. I mean, arrow is a good example. Minecart is a good example. Armor stand, that's a good example. We don't probably want to actually be able to hit these entities with our custom swords. And that's where another folder gets added to this list. So we have our functions, our advancements, our predicates, and now we're going to want to add tags. Specifically in here, we are going to want to add an entity types folder. So we have tags and then entity types. There are other types of tags you can make for items and blocks and I think structures as well, maybe a few others. But the main thing that we're wanting right now are entity tags. So we are going to make 2 of those. Well, actually, I'm just going to copy paste over one that I've made because I'm not typing this all out again. You don't need to either. Feel free to just copy paste it from the download in the video's description. This is basically a list of every Minecraft mob in the game. So essentially we just have a list of values, right? They're all separated by commas. And so we're going to say Minecraft player, Minecraft bat, mushroom, so on and so forth for all 70 something mobs in the game. Took a little bit to actually write this, so I'm not going to make you guys do it yourself. However, what you need to know about a tag is actually how to use it, right? So we have it, it's in the pack, and how we're going to actually use this is if we have a selector of all entities, we can choose the type that they are, and Minecraft actually has a fair amount of tags themselves. These are entity tags, so arrows would contain all the arrow types. So I think that would be tipped arrows and golden arrows or whatever they're called, glowing arrows, right? And so you'll notice what they're doing here is they're adding a little hashtag in front of it. So if we do hashtag custom, what's this pack called? Sword tutorial, that's right, tutorial. And then this is called mobs. You'll see if we run this, every player, every cow, every villager is going to say their name, right? But, so if we were to like place down some item frames, place down some armor stands, they're not on the list, right? So they're not going to say anything. Where if we didn't have this, if we just did add E, cool, well, all of the items that are on the ground are going to say stuff. All the item frames, all the armor stands. We don't want that. We just want the mobs that we could actually deal damage to. So with the tag actually set up, what we want to do is we can do as at entity, and remember it was type equals hashtag and then sword tutorial, and then this was mobs. So technically this would work. So now whenever I hit a mob while I'm holding this custom sword, every mob in the world is going to say this, right? But that's not what we're wanting. We're wanting only mobs that have just been hurt. So what we're going to want to do, I mean, we might as well cut down the distance because I would assume that we don't want mobs that are 1,000 blocks away to be checked to see if they were hit. This is not going to happen. So we can cut down the distance to like some arbitrary amount. This doesn't matter too much. What does matter is we're going to actually end up having to do an NVT check for the hurt time. That's not the right thing. Hurt time of the actual entities. Minecraft has this kind of interesting mechanic where when you hit a mob, or a mob takes damage at all, it gets invulnerability for 10 game ticks, which is half a second. And this is actually really useful because it's a timer we can tap onto. So that means that what we're now doing is we're looking for mobs within 10 blocks of us that have been hurt on the same game tick that I swung my sword. So this is pretty foolproof because for the most part there aren't going to be 2 mobs getting hurt at the exact same time in that close of a vicinity. Sometimes it could be false though. I mean, there's actually been situations where I've been able to hit myself with this, which is kind of funny. I'm going to also show you guys the fix for that bug. It's really simple, but we can confirm that this works now if we hit save, switch back over to Minecraft, reload the game, and go punch a cow again. So you'll see now, instead of me saying that the predicate works, now the cow is saying it. Let's change this to something a bit more visual though. We can run particle flame. Let's say it's at 1 block up at this location, with a fairly low speed, and we'll just do like 30 of them. Might as well force it to happen. Hit save, go to Minecraft, hit reload, hit a cow. You died. By the way, only problem with the system, if you kill the mob on your hit, doesn't actually detect that you hit them because there's no mob to actually run the command at. So it's a bit of a drawback because sometimes that will happen. But now that we actually have it set up, you'll notice if I don't one-hit kill the cow, flames will appear at the location. Oh, and I think it is worth noting there's literally pretty much no way to determine where an entity died after it's dead, because you can't execute at a dead entity. So this is kind of the best we got, unfortunately. But yeah, so technically this is a custom sword if you think about it. It's a sword that when I hit a mob, it does a thing at that mob. But as I did mention, there is a bit of a bug with this right now where the attacker could technically hit themselves with their own sword, which doesn't make any sense, so let's fix that. Really simple fix, just give the attacker a tag of something like, well, okay, I can't capitalize it. Am the attacker, whatever. You can name it literally whatever you want, doesn't matter very much. But then in our check for the mob, right, we can check if it's a mob, we can check the distance of it, we can check if it's being hurt, but we can also check to see that its tag is not am the attacker. So this means that as long as I am not the person that attacked, I can be hit by the sword. But if I am the person that attacked, then yeah, I'm not able to be hurt by this sword. On that specific game tick, of course. And then at the end, we just have to make sure that we remove the tag once we're done, clean up everything. Otherwise, we could have a potential issue of the tag is being left there. You gotta make sure to clean up after yourself. In the same way we cleaned up after ourselves with the advancement. And so now, technically, we have a custom sword, like I was saying. We got rid of that bug, so it should be pretty solid. We could make multiple if we wanted to by just creating more predicates. Sword 2, Sword 3, Sword 4. And as long as in our datapack file. So then if I create Sword 2, hit enter, and then I probably want to call this custom item 2, right? Well now, maybe custom item 2, it does smoke instead of flames. And then in my give command, instead of being called custom sword name, we'll call you custom sword 2. And we will give you a different texture and custom item 2. So now in Minecraft, switching my monitors, we can run the function, what was it? Give items. So now we have custom sword and custom sword 2. You'll see custom sword 1 still does the flames. Custom sword 2 now does smoke. So cool. Now we can make as many custom swords as we want using this method. It's really easy to just copy paste. And yeah. Let's dive in a little bit into some of the cool stuff you could do with a custom sword. So for starters, don't run a particle command or whatever here. That makes no sense. Instead, run a function. So we're going to call you what? If I could spell right, you'll be sword tutorial, and then we're going to call you what? Sword 1. And yeah, we'll do sword 2 as well. Why not? And yeah, we'll need to get rid of the stuff after these functions. And yeah, then we can actually create the functions. So down here, we'll want to create function sword 1 and function sword 2. And it might actually be smarter if we put these in a folder. So I'm going to create one of these. This is how you do it in MCB, of course. But if you are doing it in your own data pack, you would do it in the folder file structure. So we could save this, and I might as well add our smoke and flames back, because why not? You'll see on our file structure, now we have a swords folder, and then we have our different functions here. This is how you'd want to set it up if you are not using MCB. So what are some cool stuff we could do in these actual functions? Well, we could run literally whatever command we want. So we could do whatever your imagination and skills allow you to, of course. But here's some simple things to get started. We could obviously run particles. We could play a sound. The play sound event is quite powerful. Maybe we go with firework, rocket blast far. We're going to just put that in the master channel. Why not? Play it for all players at the location of the mob with volume 1. Why not? Cool. Well, we can try that in game. And now when we hit a mob, there's a popping sound and the flames. Cool. We can run multiple things at the mob's location. But that's a bit boring. So what if we were to also, I don't know, give it an effect of levitation for, I don't know, 10 seconds with low amplifier, and then we can hide the particles. Cool. So now if we reload and hit a cow, it's going to just slowly float into the air. Well, that's pretty cool. Very simple. And yeah, now we have a custom levitating sword. Poor cow. You will be missed. But what if we want to do something a bit more complex than that? Well, because this only runs the function a single time at the cow, sometimes it can be a little tricky to actually, you know, run a complex thing at the entity, because, I mean, we can't just like set the mob on fire or whatever with particles going everywhere the whole time. But that's because we're just not ticking at the mob. So why don't we set up a tag and give this, I don't know, we're going to call it hit by sword 1 target. I don't know. The names don't really matter too much. I just like to make them pretty long so that you don't have multiple with the same name. Might as well make them as descriptive as possible. Then in our tick function, we could, and by the way, this is not optimal. You could optimize this better, but we could just execute as the entity. We know it should be the type of sword tutorial, right? Sword tutorial mobs. And then we also want to do tag is hit by sword 1 target. And yeah, we can run this at them to then run a function, or in this case, in MCB, a block basically lets you create a function on the fly. This is just a automatically generated function. So I could have this tick to say whatever I want. So in this case now, the cow, when I hit it, is going to just continuously spam the chat with hi, which means that we're making progress. Now we're ticking at and as the cow. So let's do something a little bit more interesting. Cool. So I think I'm going to set the levitation to be a little bit faster. And then in my load function, I'm going to add a scoreboard. This is going to be scoreboard objectives add. I'm just going to call this was timer, and then it's going to be a dummy objective. You can name your timers and scoreboards whatever you want. It is generally smart to have some sort of key term that relates to you so that other people don't have the same name as you. Because if you just went with timer, there's probably like 1,000 other people that use timer as one of their scoreboard names. There aren't very many people that use was timer, except for me. Please don't use it, because obviously I use it, but you can use something with your own name. So in this case, we have this timer going, and that's actually going to be pretty helpful, because I'm going to scoreboard players add to the timer. So now we have a cow that's levitating into the air with the timer counting up. We know that it's going to levitate for, we defined it as 10 seconds, right? We're giving levitation for 10 seconds. So we could have this timer count to 10, which is equal to 200. So we could say execute as at s scores was timer. If it's 200 or greater, let's do something. In this case, we're going to say, we'll just say explode. Why not? Or, you know what? Why say explode if I can just explode? Summon TNT. Or, let's summon a fire. Nah, let's summon a TNT. That'll be more fun. And summoning a TNT like this will just instantly explode. So, should be good. We should probably create this as a separate function so that we can also kill ourselves, just in case the explosion for some reason doesn't kill the cow, then it's not going to explode forever. And this will probably look a bit better if we add a particle, just always happening, of particle firework at our current location. In fact, I think we could probably just literally leave it as particle firework. And yeah, let's see how this looks. So back in Minecraft, we now have custom stored name, and if we hit a mob with it, it will slowly go up into the air. And then explode. Perfect. So yeah, that's how you can create custom swords in Minecraft. The sky is pretty much the limit once you know how to detect the actual holding of a custom sword, the hitting with the custom sword, and how to detect what mob was hit. And so yeah, I'm not going to go too much further with the actual tutorial itself, because at that point we'd just be going into general Datapack creation stuff. So if you did like the tutorial, however, make sure to leave a like on it, and I'm going to be making lots more of these tutorials in the future, so leave a suggestion for what I should make a tutorial on next. I'm thinking either bows or pickaxes probably, but I'll let you guys decide. So thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys all in the very next video.